Gareth, thank you. Welcome to our SALT Project Community Open Hour for July 29th. My name is Jeff Blair and I'm hosting today. Thank you all for joining. These slides were constructed for me, so I'm going to flip through them, and I have as much knowledge of what's coming as you do. And I believe these are some of the companies that use SALT. Here's our agenda for today. We'll take you through some updates. We'll talk about SALT Conf and working groups. We'll talk about our enhancement proposals and release updates, and then we'll go to Q&A. So we're working on the July meetup is canceled. This is probably because it's vacation season and everyone is traveling and doing things, but we'll get these back going again in August. A notice that the remaining SALT Stack swag is deeply discounted on the saltstack.com store. And so definitely head up there and still get that stuff. I don't think I have a pair of socks. I might have to get after that. All right, this is a shout out to submit blog posts. Looking for something in that kind of a short post, 400 to 800 words, bio, headshot, blog content, and send that to SALT Project at VMware. And then SALTConf 21 is scheduled for November 3rd and 4th, a virtual event. And the call for speakers is open. I guess it's no longer open. Hopefully everyone got submitted. And if you didn't, we can probably still try to figure out how to handle that. Okay. So this looks to me like our working group captains should be checking in and reporting a little bit. Am I interpreting that right, Gareth and folks?
On August 5th, they will.
Yeah, so the first week of every month, the open hour, we have the captains, the working group captains check.
Oh, so in other words, I should read the entire slide and then I know what's going on. Okay, cool. So that's basically next week, right? That's next Thursday that happens. Okay, cool. So the working group captains, if you're on this call, be prepared to check in next week on what the working groups are doing. Okay, so a discussion of our SALT enhancement proposal process. An individual SEP needs 5 core team member approvals to be accepted. The timeframes are subjective. I was looking at the steps and some of them have been there for quite a while. And I believe we're going to do some work to improve those timeframes so that we can get these approvals turned around faster. And then of course the SEP itself does not represent the final implementation plan. It just represents an approval to pursue the enhancement that has been proposed. Any comments on that, or anything that I've missed, or anything that I've said incorrectly? Okay. And these are the currently open SEPs. I think when this slide was made, the inclusive language SEP, we have created a new smaller SEP to try and address the fact that there are some of these inclusive language changes that we can make with less effort, like addressing whitelist, blacklist, and converting those to locked, versus like trying to figure out how to handle the word master, which is everywhere in the code. So there is another SEP that's not listed on this slide that specifically tackles converting whitelist and blacklist to allowed and blocked, just to take a small chunk and be able to accomplish it and do it. And that's not listed here. Any other comments on SEPs before I move on? Okay, releases. 3003.2 is expected next week. I don't know that we tagged yesterday, so that might be in jeopardy unless we can tag today. Do we have updates on how soon we're going to tag for that?
We didn't tag yesterday because we were waiting on some PRs to go into the release for 3002.1. Sorry, 3003.2.
Yeah.
So I think there's one PR that we're still waiting on tests for just to finish. But hopefully once that's in, we should be able to
Okay.
hopefully tag.
So I think, and do we assume that's going to happen today?
We are hopeful that it will happen
Okay.
today.
So all I mean by asking that is that I think that this date is potentially at risk because we needed the tag yesterday in order to make this date. So this date we're going to be day to day on this PR that we're waiting for. So we're probably adjusting this by a couple of days, but hopefully not by a ton. And then the silicone release is release candidate in the end of August, and then availability in the end of September. Okay. And for anybody who's interested, we've got 3003.1 going into Photon OS, so that the fixes that are in that are going to be going out to all the customers who are on Photon, any VMware customers that are on Photon. Okay, so now it's time to open up for questions and answers. Anything on the slides that we went through that people want to ask questions on or discuss, or just anything that people wanted to bring up in this, any other SALT questions that you wanted to bring up?
I did want to remind everyone, 3000 is end of life, September 15th. So be prepared.
September what? I missed the date.
September 15th, it's getting added to archive.repo.saltproject.io. 1 week later, it's getting deleted off repo.saltproject.io.
Okay. While we're waiting for questions to come up, I know that you have just a burning desire to know what this wallpaper is behind me. This is in the High Uintas in Utah, where I spent some time with my teenage sons last week, and it was beautiful up there.
Nice. I didn't know Utah had trees.
When you get up into the high altitudes, it starts to look like this right here.
In case y'all were wondering about my background, this is where me and my sons.
I went exploring dungeons and rescuing princesses or something.
All right, so how do we carry forward if there are no questions? Do I keep it open for time, or do we decide there's no questions and wrap it up?
So
oh, there's something.
There's a question in chat, but also I did have just a quick announcement or reminder that next Thursday as well, Thursday morning is the test working group. So August 5th as well. So if anybody's interested, you should come to that. But in the chat, Vic says, I saw someone commenting that supposedly no new features will be going into the open source version of Salt. Everything will be going into the VMware product. Any comment about that?
That is not my understanding. VMware is committed to continuing Salt as a robust and living open source project. And the truth is that everything that the commercial product can do is leveraging the capabilities of Salt. And so we continue to push feature and capability requirements into Salt so that it's there, and then the commercial product can leverage it to make it available to paid customers. So I haven't personally heard anything about not continuing to enhance Salt. And in fact, I have heard exactly the opposite internally. That
I was
Salt
just going to say, I think the fact that Delta Proxy and some of that other work that was previously limited to enterprise customers being released here.
Delta Proxy, the native minions have gone open. Heist is going into open. And yes, these things are going to be leveraged by the commercial product, but they're going into open and they will be available open.
Yes, so it's it is very much not that sort of thing. One of the things that might be leading to that that idea or that potential confusion is that we are working on pulling out modules into extension modules, but that's different than this idea of no new open feature work. And the reason that we're doing that is so that some of these modules can have a much quicker release cadence than the core of Salt, because Salt is going to march on with releases 3 or 4 times a year, whereas some modules, there's no reason that they couldn't be released, having updates released weekly. And so we're just trying to get a lot of, and plus, as we can do that, we can also remove some of that testing overhead outside of Salt necessarily, because if you're, we've got to run all of the tests across all the platforms for Salt when we make those releases, and all the modules as well. So if we have modules that don't change, if they're relatively static, then we don't, and the underlying pieces of Salt aren't changing, then they don't really need a whole lot of tests to make sure that those are still good. And so,
I think everything you're saying,
that,
sorry, Wayne, I think everything that you're saying is pointing to the fact that the core Salt project is gonna increase in flexibility in terms of release cadence. We could stay quarterly. We could even potentially release more frequently if we needed to, because the overall test suite is reduced by pulling out the extension modules and having those maintained and tested separately.
Yeah. So it's we are definitely still adding features and functionality to the core of Salt.
Yeah.
I'll add on to what Wayne said. Like we have several members of the open team on the Zoom call here, and 100% of what we've been working on has been going into open Salt. So if all of a sudden we're not working on adding stuff into open Salt, that would come as quite a shock to us, as much of a shock to us as to the community,
and to me as well. Yeah, and
to Jeff as well, right?
Yeah.
And I'll also mention, it's possible that a lot of, most of our focus the last few months has been on not necessarily adding features, but ensuring that our test suite is as stable as possible and working on the backlog of getting bug fixes and things ported into things that didn't get ported over when we switched from the develop branch into the master branch. And so it's possible that it doesn't look like we're adding as much new stuff into Salt as previously, but we are still dedicated to ensuring that that new features go in as well as bug fixes.
Thank you for that question. I see by your follow-up, your follow-up comment that it feels like we've answered the question to your satisfaction. Is there any other follow-up that you have on that? I don't know if you're typing or looking for your unmute. There it is. Okay, cool. Thank you. Anybody else? What else do we have? I have a small piece of news. I don't know if it's small or not, but to me it is. I've opened a rec to hire another developer into the Salt core team. The experience level that we're looking for is someone who is either a few years out of college or someone who has recently finished a graduate degree. And I was just going to go find that. Let me stop sharing. I was going to go find that rec and share that with the group. There we go. So if you know someone or if you're interested and this experience level matches for you, then please feel free to reach out to me in the community Slack and let me know that you've applied so that we can talk. I'm Smokey the Blair in Slack, and it's a short story about burning up popcorn in a microwave as to why I'm called Smokey, but anyway, that's my Slack handle.
Sounds like you might need to go activate your handle in the community Slack.
I was just chatting with people in there the other day. It looks like I'm actually just Jeff Blair. That's boring. I thought I was Smokey the Blair. Let me see. No,
Maybe a difference
sorry.
between domain name and username.
Yeah. So when I tag myself, I'm coming up as Jeff Blair, not Smokey the Blair. But so yeah, I apologize for telling that wrong. So it's Jeff Blair, and I think there's just one. Yeah, there's just one. My name is, I'm not guaranteed of being unique in a given system. All right. Gareth and Daniel and folks, I'm going to look to you guys to tell me if we keep this open and or if we go ahead and wrap up.
If there's no additional questions, we usually will wrap up early. I actually had one, and it's one that I asked last week of the community, and just if anyone was at the open hour last week and you've had some time to think about it. I posed the question of what we want to do with the working groups going forward, just because some of the the meetings are monthly, and sometimes the attendance is kind of dropped off, and that might be just related to summer. But if anyone had some time to think about it or had some additional thoughts on kind of revitalizing them and getting more interest in them, I think we'd be very interested to hear the feedback and the ideas.
I think at least part of it's probably due to the summer slump, especially kind of this middle of summer vacation time. That's at least in the States. But yeah, I have noticed a similar trend as far as, you know, we need more interest, or maybe we don't. I mean, I'm not sure, but you know, I think really just we do want to have a clear path where, you know, if a working group needs to be deactivated for a time until there's more interest. I do think we should spell that out. Like, what does that look like when a group either accomplishes everything that it set out to do and really has no more nothing else that they're interested in accomplishing, or, you know, the interest in it tapers off due to whatever reasons, because, you know, life happens, as I'm fond of saying, and you know, we understand that you may have thought, oh yeah, I'm totally going to be, you know, I've got all this time and I'm going to do this, and then suddenly life just takes a left turn and you're like, oh, never mind, I guess we're going to drop that effort. So I think just spelling out what it is that we need to do and what's kind of the minimum level of participation before we say, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and retire is probably not the right word, but I guess deactivate or stand down the the working group, something like that. But I think it does bear defining so that our expectations are clear.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things we discussed last week too, was just like if the working group has run its course, then it's run its course. Sorry, I interrupted you, Derek.
No, with Doc's working group, we've actually adjusted how we're doing things now, where we've kind of, since we've mapped out a lot of the things that need to be worked on, we're starting this week, starting today, we're transitioning toward just being almost like sort of like how Wayne would do the test clinics, where he's just working on stuff over a stream. We're pretty much just going to do Zoom calls, like kind of as a co-working space where, hey, here are all the tasks, here are things, because it's allowing us to, as a result, do dedicated time to work on doc stuff and to be able to simply ask questions or get, you know, merge requests reviewed, that kind of thing. Because yeah, we were kind of running the thing where we kept coming, we had a lot of ideas and a lot of things to implement, but it was a lot of, hey, if you find time outside of this, and there were a lot of talking meetings. So now we're kind of, in order to just kind of get work done, direct focus. So for people interested, if you join in the docs working group, there are plenty of issues, and that's what we'll be doing.
And that working group's meeting later today, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're meeting later today, and that would be at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. This is the first, we're starting to go to weekly. We were going every other week, but we're going to start to go to weekly, since it's just going to be a working hour instead of meeting every 2 weeks to kind of summarize things.
I'm seeing in the comments that I'm not the only one who has a common name. Um,
I'm pretty fortunate there, but I've discovered that when it's not completely unique, hilarity ensues. One of my previous jobs, there was actually a Wayne Williams, and apparently everybody was used to just typing like WAY and hitting enter in their email. And because Werner sorts before Williams, I got a lot of emails I was not supposed to.
I'm
Was HR.
currently.
He was actually in accounting, so.
Oh, you were learning the numbers then.
I was like, this is really confusing. Like, I kind of understand what's happening here, but oh, this is not for me. Ah, that's right.
I'm currently getting feedback emails from some week-long seminar that's happening back east, to my personal email. Somebody named Jeff Blair is teaching a seminar and getting daily feedback via email, and I'm getting some of those. Yeah.
Nice. That is the one good thing about having my own personal domain is there's really not any chance of somebody else sending me getting accidentally signed up because it's the wrong Wayne Werner at gmail.com.
Interesting. Yeah, that keeps it for you.
Yeah, I am one of 3 people with my same name in a company of almost 50,000 employees. So
Even
one of them
Eric
is
with a
spelled
K,
exactly
huh?
the same, and one of them is ERICK, and I get at least one chat message or email a week for one of the other 2.
Wow.
When I was in high school, there was someone with the same first, middle, and last name and birthday as me.
I think you win.
That's impressive. Also goes to show you why unique identifiers aren't.
Yeah, but were your mother's maiden names the same?
I wasn't able to find out.
There was a Jeff Blair at BYU when I was in college, and he was on academic probation, and that caused me a little bit of stress.
About the nearest thing I have, as a matter of fact, my getting my domain name, it used to belong to the other Wayne Werner, who I guess does jewelry, which is kind of awesome. Like he works a lot with like gold and silver and stuff, and actually makes jewelry, and apparently is a well-regarded craftsman. So when the domain finally came up for sale, of course I snagged it. But yeah, it was kind of interesting to see. Oh, there's another Wayne Werner out there, and he's also a crafty guy.
Pretty awesome.
Growing up, my name is David George Murphy. Across the road from me was a David George Martin Murphy, the same age, house 43. My house was 44 on the same road. That really caused confusion. Mail systems and stuff. Who's this for?
Wow. As long as you're
And-
getting his, as long as you're getting his stimulus checks and he's getting your bills, then it's
Mhm.
probably okay.
Well, this was Ireland. You didn't get anything. Fortunately, he was a well-behaved guy, so was I, so the cops didn't come around too often. But yeah, and no relation.
Wow.
Names like Murphy is the commonest surname in Ireland, kind of like Smith in England.
So I'm curious, is Murphy the surname, is that similar to like how Smith was blacksmith, or is that some other just like, oh, you don't have a last name, so here, Murphy is what your last name is?
No, Murphy is very common in Ireland. It's actually in Gaelic Omuraku, and it actually means hound of the sea or sea warrior, or if you're not being nice, pirate, buccaneer, etc.
Nice.
Yes. So all that raping and pillaging, yes, that was my ancestors.
Oh, man.
Even one of the people who's supposed to have enslaved St. Patrick when he was a young lad from Romano Britain was supposed to have been a Murphy, which makes sense given that basically family of pirates.
There's one in every family.
Oh, for the sake of the family go, he's a white sheep. God, what went wrong with him?
Is that one we need to change to? Black sheep and white sheep?
Yes, yes. How do you because you know they are kind of black and white. And you can't say brown sheep or red sheep. Dirty sheep.
Dirty sheep and clean sheep? I don't know. That's weird. All right. So bringing it back around, is there anything else that we need to discuss during the open hour now? Anything that you want to bring up? Okay. And unless this is absurdly soon, we can give back 23 minutes of people's time.
We normally end the open hour on a terrible joke, which is often presented by Wayne. But if Wayne doesn't have one, I have one that I heard yesterday. It's
All
pretty
right.
bad.
Let's hear yours, Gareth.
So this one was relayed by my father that he heard from a guy, and I can't do the accent, but it was part of the presentation. You have to picture it if you knew like a really thick Liverpool accent with like a lot of pauses in it. So just imagine that. So the joke is, why does a scuba diver fall backwards on a boat?
I don't know.
Because if he fell forward, he'd still be in the boat.
Note, Garrett cannot do a Scouse accent.
I cannot do the Scouse accent.
So I just heard one from Steed yesterday morning that's it's really, really bad. So bear with me. But he ended our call by saying 6:30 is the best time ever, hands down. It took a second.
Did you say it again? 6:30 is the best time ever? What is it?
Hands down.
Hands down.
So if you don't know how to read an analog clock, that joke's not going to make any sense.
I saw the gears turning in Shane's mind, like, hey, what's that?
So how do you keep me laughing when I'm old? You tell me a joke when I'm young.
And then you'll get it when you're going to hit 70 and you're going to start getting all those jokes that you didn't get.
Exactly.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And we will chat again next week, and we'll see you all in the community Slack.
Bye.
Yeah.